Shutdown fallout. What history tells us? What do you think it tells us? I think the last one was 2019, if I'm looking at these correctly. Yes, 2019.
Usually it's sideways with a little bit of an upward, I think, from my memory, sideways to a little bit of an upward bias. We actually close higher than when the shutdown first is announced. And then there's a little bit of an upward bias from there. That's my inkling.
What do you think about volatility?
What do I think about volatility? Great question. I would say, I think the obvious thing to say is that volatility contracts after this, but I think it's going to be pretty much of a non-event. That's going to be my guess. Contraction to non-event.
But a little bit higher at the start.
A little bit higher at the start. I'm just playing the odds of the uncertainty. And then it gets, a little bit over-exaggerated.
It sounds intuitive that you'd have higher volatility when the government's shutting down.
Which probably means I'm 100% wrong, but we'll find out.
Let's take a look. So a couple slides here. All right, so the longest government shutdown in U.S. history has finally ended, but
has it ended?
We
not yet.
We're a little bit quick to the trigger here. It hasn't really ended.
Here.
Initial estimates suggest billions in lost output and delayed spending, but history can give us a clear sense of the longer-term impact. Let's check in with the results from past shutdowns to try and anticipate where we may go from here. We must be the only ones looking at government shutdown post coming back online. Mm-hmm. So during the initial ACA dispute, so we're looking at just like past government shutdowns. This one is in 2013. The market began to rebound from the shutdown before it even ended. So here we're looking at like the S&P 500 along with a bunch of sectors that are kind of affected mostly by the government shutdown. I mean, NVIDIA doesn't really have the shutdown doesn't really affect NVIDIA. It does affect airlines, as we've seen this weekend. Healthcare is obviously in there, defense spending, consumer staples, like all of those are kind of part of the shutdown. So looking at those stocks here, you can see, there was a little bit of a bid going into the end of the shutdown here in 2013, but a little bit of volatility along the way. And the axis here is just a percentage. The nominal price is just percentage. So 1.05 is a 5% upside move. You can see we had a big move afterwards.
I never would have thought of like airlines, being like one of the larger movers in the market. I didn't. That was a good one there.
Strangle in UAL.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but maybe some sort of directional diagonal in there. Yeah, maybe
they're pumping some juice into the call side there. In anticipation of the shutdown.
Yep.
Next slide here. So the border funding, which was one of the more recent ones as Trump won, the border funding dispute resulted in only very short-term drop for most equities, airlines being the notable exception here. So you can see, markets as a whole kind of had a little bit of a blip of volatility early on, and then it was off to the races. And I think with anything, looking back, you have to look at the market, the whole picture of the market. This was a very bullish market. You remember?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, too. I mean, like, if the market was falling out of bed and you have a government shutdown, I would think it would be a continuation move that way, and this would not be like what you're seeing here on the screen, or maybe what you might get this time because we're at highs.
Yeah. But it definitely tells you that through most of them, airlines have kind of been the most volatile.
Yep.
If you're looking for like a volatility play into a shutdown, if there's another shutdown in the future, which I think here we're kind of mentioning in January, there's potential for another one. That's where you tend to see the most volatility is the airline stocks, because they're really, that's the big consumer facing aspect of the shutdown is those.
And they all, I just looked at AAL, UAL, and Love. I didn't look at Delta Airlines. I should. They're all at or above their price from when the shutdown started. So far it's holding into this time too.
Next one, please. So we're looking at this most recent shutdown, which has gotten quite long. Is it the longest? I think it's the longest now.
The longest one, yeah.
So despite the length of the most recent shutdown, the market stayed in the tighter range percentage-wise than previously. So you can see here, we've gone basically nowhere. We've had wide ranges, pretty decent volatility in this time frame from October, but we've gone basically nowhere. So it's been very choppy. Again, you can see airlines are kind of the most volatile of the group here in terms of just like raw range of price action.
Very good.
Next one here. So while prices may have had erratic responses to the government closing, volatility has been more predictable. So you can see we had pop and volatility kind of throughout the start of 2013, and then it kind of came in, and then after the government shut down and we reopen, volatility kind of gets crushed.
Normalizes, stabilizes.
Not a shock. Yeah, volatility when the government shuts down. When the government comes back, it's status quo again.
Now you couple that with the price movement and some of these things, and it might not have been a beneficial play here. But if you're looking at, again, just selling one side, puts get inflated. I mean, this is a pretty interesting and predictable, sometimes so predictable that you wouldn't play. Like I said,
this one's 2 weeks, though.
Exactly.
So it's you're not.
That's a good amount of time when you're only in a lot of premium selling strategies that work 2 to 3 weeks. So you might get an acceleration where they work in under 2 weeks. So definitely an advantage there. It's just hard to take advantage of something that happens, I guess, more frequently now than it has in the past.
Looking at 2019, so this one was spikes just before and at the beginning of the shutdown, the returning back to more normal levels over time. I mean, this one you could see you have kind of the initial spike in volatility, and as you get closer and through the shutdown, volatility mean reverts back to lows. It's not a shock. This happens in other cases outside of government shutdowns as well. This is kind of what you expect to see from short period. This is a look of 3 months here, which includes some before and after the spike. Anytime you have a spike in volatility, this is typically what you see. This is what the chart looks like. You have a spike in volatility. It tends to mean revert back to kind of like a middle range, and then it continues to cluster and grind lower over time as that kind of fear subsides. I mean, this is just a textbook example of spikes in volatility. This is what it looks like.
Very good.
The next one is the most recent period. So obviously we had a spike in volatility, and we had a spike in volatility, comes down. We've had another spike in volatility more recently, and it's it started to come down as well. And this kind of projecting the end of the shutdown. I know that on Polymarket, it's about an 88% probability that it ends at some point from Wednesday to Friday. So we're kind of front running that. We're the first ones to say the government shutdown ends.
That's right.
We're calling it.
We're calling it. We called it.
Because it's
done.
Just like we wanted to have the election show to call the president first, we're calling the shutdown first today.
Called it first. That's right.
Yeah, we called it first.
Let nobody take that title on terrestrial.
That's right. I want that. Put that in Wikipedia.
That's it. We own it.
We own it. Since 1980, when Congress fails to pass a budget, the federal government stops making payments. This typically exerts bearish short-term effects, though with some industries more sensitive than others. We noted airlines have been kind of the most volatile of the group. Despite the length of the recent shutdown, equities actually remained more constrained throughout previous examples. So they've been in a relatively tight range, a little bit more volatility in the airlines there. Volatility, on the other hand, has always shown significant action in response to government shutdowns, giving opportunities for option traders. So maybe in the next occurrence of a government shutdown, you think about this a little bit, maybe there's a little bit of volatility into that event.